Celebrating the connection with our pets. This is Animal Radio, featuring veterinarian Dr. Debbie White, groomer Joey Villani, news director Lori Brooks. And now, here are your hosts, Hal Abrams and Judy Francis.
Oh, and welcome. I think it's another overbooked show, I might say.
It's a really big one.
It is a big one. On the show today, from the Animals, you may remember, and War, Eric Burdon.
Ooh, the singer, huh?
The singer will be joining us today right here on Animal Radio. You're probably asking, what does he have to do with animals?
Yes.
You'll just have to wait and find out. Well, I mean, obviously, he was in a band called The Animals.
Yes, he was.
That is not the connection in this particular case. Now, I've been instructed not to ask him about the song House of the Rising Sun. They just sent
Why
me.
not? I love that song. I play it on my piano.
Oh, mother, tell your children not to do what I have done.
It's like one of my favorites.
Yeah, and if you play guitar, it's one of the
You're
first songs.
probably not supposed to tell everyone that you're not supposed to
Yes,
ask him
Hal,
about
you
that.
just blew it.
I wasn't supposed to mention
A little
that.
behind-the-scenes information. Huh?
Yes, that should have stayed behind the scenes.
I don't think it's a big secret. It actually was in his last book. He apparently didn't get writing credits for that, for the House of the Rising Sun. And so he never made any royalties off of it. And every band in the world has played it. So I won't ask him about that.
That's too bad.
But I will ask him about his animals and why he's calling us. Because I'm curious about that right now. Also on the show today, we're going to have Alan Cook back, the inventor of the Brilliant Pad, who was on Shark Tank last week. Did you see that?
I did.
He did get funded. I'll tell you that right now. I believe Lori Grenier gave him $500,000. So he'll be on. He'll tell us his experience on Shark Tank. Lori, what are you working on over in the newsroom?
Well, since you're talking about Alan and dogs doing their duty on, what are they called now?
It's called a Brilliant Pad. It's like an automatic
The Brilliant Pad.
Yeah.
Very cool. I hear you can, roll those up like a sausage, pass them around, and smoke them.
Yes.
Not sure if that's true, though.
You don't want to do that.
But I have a story for you where there's also maybe another option for dogs going potty.
Ooh.
As in, something similar to what cats use.
Oh, litters, which is something I think, my dog, I should have trained my dog to use a cat litter because I hear more and more people are using them. But we're going to find out the details in just a few minutes with Lori Brooks. First, it's all about you. And we go to Joanne. Hey, Joanne, how are you doing?
Oh, hey, I'm doing fine.
Sorry to keep you on hold for so long. Phones are they're burning white hot over here, but you're up. What's going on?
Well, we've got a great cat, and we're trying to train her on a leash, and we're wondering if you have any tips that you can share with us.
Okay, sure. Well, I gotta commend you. That's for some kitties, that's a big undertaking. For others, especially those that are really food motivated, it's not all that difficult. So tell me about your kitty. Is there a particular breed she is? How does she normally respond if you ask her to do things for you, or you try to make her do something?
She already comes. She only gets treats. I've had cats before, and I've always had them come by rattling a can with treats in it, and she only gets her treat if she comes to the can. She's food motivated, I suppose. She's a long-haired. She's all black. Never had a pretty cat like that, and she loves to go outside, and she's an outside-inside cat. She's timid.
Okay.
She's a scaredy cat.
Scaredy cat in what way?
Noises. She's afraid of the cars and the trucks. She's afraid of dogs. She'll hide and hunker and run in.
Okay.
That type. Very cautious.
Because all of those things that you're saying, Joanne, are going to kind of play into whether or not she's going to be a good candidate to do this, and if we're going to expect her to really take to it and enjoy it. Now, for a kitty that's fearful of sounds, cars, dogs, I'll have to say for leash training for outside, that may not be the most enjoyable experience for her. And you really have to kind of look at what she wants to do, and if she doesn't want to do it, it's going to be harder to convince her to do that. So if it's something like walking around the backyard, if you've got a nice long property, something like that, this might be a reasonable thing to try to see how she does without all those distractions and all those other things that can kind of freak her out. But yes, you can definitely work towards training her. The first step with kitties puppies, if you do want to leash train them, is to really get them accustomed to the fit of a harness. And that's the most important thing. You can use a collar. However, for cats, since they can sneak out, get frightened, and slip the collar, I really think the only way you should do this is to do it with a body harness. So you want to make sure you get her well fit. So if you're not comfortable with that, see someone at a pet store just to kind of help you with that, so that she can't get her little arm out or slide out.
Yeah, I did buy her a harness, which I'm on Kodiak Island, and we really don't have a pet store, but I've gotten her associated to her harness.
Good.
She lets me put it on. It's not a problem at all. And then I kept doing that, let her walk around in that, and get used to it. And then I'd take it off of her and put it in an area where she sits down or lays down. And right now she's just come in from inside, and she's sitting on top of her harness and the leash. But I don't, the leash is more like a toy. She'll want to go after it.
That's okay. That's okay. We can use that to our advantage, and that's one way that you can have her on the harness. And using, preferably, I didn't even get into that as far as we want to use a light leash, just so it doesn't. Cats don't really dig that heavy sensation of that leash, so we want to go with a really light training leash. But you can use that. Use that as a way to get her interested in moving forward. And if she wants to chase the leash, just make it a nice long one and tease her with a little bit, make her play with it, or get a little feather toy, something like that, to get her interested in moving forward. And that can of treats, hey, that's a great thing to bring that along as well too. Even to get her to go a few feet is really that's all we're asking. First, we want her to tolerate the leash and the harness, and then we want to just ask her to take a few steps. And you just work up with time and positive reinforcement with those treats. And of course, I don't want to see your kitty get chubby, but there is definitely a way. And whether or not in those other situations where she'll really take to this, try to control her environment and do that in a safe, quiet place so that she'll feel more comfy with that experience.
Okay, I think I'm going to try it. I think I have patience with her. I want to take her out with us in the motorhome, and I've had two other cats in the motorhome, and they were older. They were used to my voice and saying, this one's just turning 2, and just want to get her.
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to get your kitty out and moving and get them some exercise. So I think, Joanne, that your call is probably going to inspire a lot of other people to consider that. Take their cat along with them traveling and in the car. It's a great way to make them a safe traveler. So keep up at it and let us know how that comes along. We will be anxiously waiting to hear how things are going there up in Alaska.
Judy, she walks her cats all the time.
I do. And
she does.
My cat travels in the RV, and I open the door of the RV, and he walks from the house out on the sidewalk and walks right into the RV and gets up on the dash, and he's ready to go.
It's the weirdest thing to see, I'll tell you right now. Well, don't forget, you can get your fix of Animal Radio anytime you want with the Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android. Download it now. It's made possible by Fear-Free Happy Homes, helping your pets live their happiest, healthiest, fullest lives at home, at the vet, and everywhere in between. Visit them at fearfreehappyhomes.com. And thanks, Fear-Free, for underwriting Animal Radio. We have Alan on the phones. Hey, Alan, how are you doing?
Doing good.
What's going on in your world?
My dog, Daisy, my girlfriend's dog, Daisy, and my dog, Daisy, she has a personal thing, like a P word, if you know what I'm meaning.
Couldn't quite hear that. I'm sorry.
The dog has a P word, if you know what I'm meaning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she has her monthly cycle, or her twice a year cycle, I should say.
Yeah.
Is it only twice a year? Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah, don't they get off easy, man? I don't know how that goes, Judy.
Yeah, that's not fair.
So your dog is having her heat cycle.
Yeah.
And what about that? What's your question?
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I mean, it's nature, and this is exactly what is meant to happen as far as in preparation for pregnancy. Now, for dogs, if she's a pet and you're not intending to breed her, the best thing that I actually recommend is to get her spayed, to have the surgical sterilization done, so that not only so she doesn't have heat cycles, because it's more than just the bother, although, I think many women would agree that the surgery would be well worth it. But as far as by having her spayed, we're also protecting her against a lot of other reproductive diseases. And one of the biggest ones is a condition called pyometra. And it's an infection that happens in the uterus, in the reproductive structures. And it's very serious. It can be totally prevented by spaying. So it would be a very good measure for your dog to prevent that type of thing, as well as all those cancers that can happen in an intact female dog. And that can be done, surgery can be done while she's in heat. Some folks opt to wait till they're out of their cycle, just to minimize complications. But either which way, I think that will be the best way we can ensure you don't have to deal with this and that we can keep her in top health.
So time to get her spayed, okay?
Okay.
Okay, there you go. Thanks, Alan, for your call.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Channel and cable, there they are, the crows. I have about 7 or 8 crows that come to my house. They're terrorizing me, but they're too smart. I can't get them. I don't know how they know, but there'll be 7 of them in my yard. They land on my roof. They do what crows do, It's like they're mocking me. As soon as I leave my chair and go downstairs and I look out the window, they're gone. They're so smart. I had no idea crows were so smart. Smarter than me, anyway. Hi.
This is Ginger.
Ginger, my favorite spice.
Are you the one that's asking about men?
Yes, I need to know how to be one. Desperately. Oh, we lost her. Let's look around the internet. Man fights to keep pizza-eating pet alligator. The alligator's name is Gwendolyn. He's 13 feet long, and David's taken care of him for 47 years. The alligator's even allowed inside the house.
Once he was in the house, he didn't want to leave. I think it took us 3 weeks to get him to go back outside. He was on the couch all the time or in the bathtub.
He loves Chips Ahoy cookies.
Now we're excited. Now you like that, huh?
This is
Animal Radio, baby.
How would you like to save money on nearly all your prescription drugs? We've set up a special toll-free number for the RX Outreach Program. They're a nonprofit company whose mission it is to make prescription drugs more affordable to the masses. They don't take insurance, and in many cases, your prescriptions are even cheaper than your co-pays. They carry thousands of different prescription drugs, so whatever you're taking, there's a good chance they have it. No coupons are required, and this is not a discount card. It is pure savings on your prescription drugs. They specialize in generic meds for any chronic health needs you have. Call with your prescription and find out for free how little you can pay for your prescription drugs. Remember, we don't take insurance, so call right now.
800-689-0143. 800-689-0143. 800-689-0143. That's 800-689-0143.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
It's Animal Radio, celebrating the connection with our pets. And I'm smiling because Ladybug just got off her Brilliant Pad. She just did I think a number 1 and number 2 on the Brilliant Pad.
Little duty on it, yes.
Yes. And as you know, if you're a longtime listener, we've been testing out the Brilliant Pad for several months now, and as well as about 12 of our listeners have been testing it out. We've had some amazing results. Last week, the founder, Alan Cook, was on Shark Tank. How you doing, Alan?
Doing fantastic. I am absolutely exhausted. The response to the show has been overwhelming.
Well, this is very exciting, of course. Shark Tank has launched thousands of products.
It was so much fun, and it was so surreal. The whole experience was bananas. I mean, the amazing thing is you see the show on TV, you feel like you know the people because you've been watching them for so long, and yet you realize you're standing in the same room, and I have no problem talking to people and in front of crowds, and yet I've never been in front of 5 sharks. I've never been in front of millions of people at the same time. It was completely crazy.
Were you nervous?
You didn't look. You looked calm and cool.
I think I was fine. It was one of those things where the adrenaline had kicked in. The most nerve-wracking aspect is you stand behind the doors and then they open and you walk. And I get behind the doors and then someone taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hold on, we need to adjust something on the set. Please wait." it's kind of like you're icing the kicker in a football game.
Yep.
So there's a 5-minute delay. Then the other thing that happens, and there's a whole bunch of articles to talk about this, once you walk through the doors, you don't start into your pitch right away. You stand on a spot, and then you sit there for, I don't know, a half a minute. And what happens is the cameras go around to get lots of photography that's used elsewhere that they need to cut in throughout the episode. So you have this really awkward beginning where you stand there and you're just kind of waiting, and of course the nerves are building because like you're ready to go, and you just gotta wait, and then you get the cue, and then it's like you see on TV.
How long are you actually standing there negotiating? I mean, in the show it's just a couple minutes. Is it a lengthy time that they cut down, or is it that fast?
So I was in the tank a total of about 45 minutes.
Wow.
I've been told that's typical. You're typically in there about 45 minutes to an hour. The shortest tapings are as little as 20 minutes. Some have gone on as long as 2 hours. And yet they all boil that down to what you see on TV. But it's interesting. I mean, the show's been around. The cast, the crew is professional. I'm not a professional TV person, nor really any of the other contestants on the show. Mm-hmm. And they did a really nice job of just trying to make you as comfortable as possible.
Kevin got a chance to smell the Brilliant Pad roll that was, a month old, full and a month old.
That was the best part.
Wasn't that cool?
He was like, that's got to stink to high heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people are going to ask about that. They're like, how does the machine work? I got it. Wait a second. So the waste is going to stay there for a long time? Isn't that going to smell? And we're like, no. So when they asked us about it, we had a soiled roll ready to go. And he's like, bring that to me. And then he smokes it like a cigar. It was completely bananas. But when he said, I'm really impressed, I expected it to smell, and it doesn't. Even the other sharks were like, they passed it around. That didn't make it to air. But They're all like, we're really impressed that this doesn't smell. And we're so excited because that really helps us explain to people and show people how well Brilliant Pad contains the odor.
And first out of the gate was Kevin. He offered you what I believe a $500,000 loan or debt.
He had a typical Kevin, deal with all sorts of loan features and payback. But then Lori jumped in, and they started negotiating with each other. And we were very happy with where things landed in the end.
Yes, and Lori, I got to say, she was the one that, of course, ultimately ended up investing. And she is very pet-friendly. She loves pets. She has a few other pet items.
Yeah, she does a terrific job selling products. She connects with women. So many of our Brilliant Pad customers are the same people that Lori already has a relationship with, and we're really excited how we can grow our sales with her help.
I have to wonder, everything's great for dogs under 25 pounds, but when, I don't have a dog that's under 50 pounds. So do you see anything on the horizon for bigger dogs?
Absolutely. So first off, the machine's really strong. And even though we say it's for 25 pounds and under, I could stand on the machine and jump up and down, and it will be fine. So as it is, we have some larger dogs that already use Brilliant Pad. If your dog can go on a potty pad that's about 24 inches by 23 or smaller, even if heavier, they'll have no problem on the machine. And yes, we are looking ahead to having a larger version in the future. So if you go to our website, brilliantpad.com, and enter your name and email address, we can let you know when the bigger model will be ready.
Alan, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, really appreciate it. Thanks for everything, guys.
Keep me posted.
Will do.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Lori, what are you working on?
Well, there's a lot of outrage these days over, shall I say, fake service animals. But it's not really so much the service dogs, those who predict, when somebody's going to have a heart attack or their blood sugar is going to drop really low. It's, or those that help, blind and deaf people. It's more over what they call the ESDs, the emotional service dogs, that are not really certified. We're going to talk about some of the things that are being done to try and curb the fakery, people buying certificates from fake registries and vests off Amazon and things like that. And some of the big things that are happening, how states are coming back and trying to combat the problem too.
Happy holidays from your friends at Fido Friendly Magazine. The fall-winter issue is available now for your dog to sniff out all the great Fido Friendly hotels and great products to set all tails wagging. This is the must-have issue of the year. So subscribe today at FidoFriendly.com with code HONEY and get a 15% discount. Make this a gift for an additional $10 for your Fido-loving friends and have a Fido fabulous holiday.
Remember, if you have questions about anything you've heard on today's show, visit us over at animalradio.pet or download the Animal Radio app for iPhone, Android, and BlackBerry, all updated, all new. It is cool, it is free, and you actually look sexier with the app. Not a lot of people know that is one of the effects, but if you download it to your phone, you look sexier. Like, look, do I look sexier than I did before I downloaded it? Of course, you're saying. So there's so many reasons to download it, so do it now.
This is an Animal Radio News Update.
I'm Lori Brooks. It's obvious there's a growing problem these days with fake service dogs, especially ESDs. Those are the emotional support dogs that are out there. 19 states have now enacted laws cracking down on people who try to pass off their pets as service animals. And Massachusetts might be added to that list soon, as they are considering a similar law. But the toughest of the anti-fake service dog laws already in existence, you'll find that in California, where the maximum penalty is a $1,000 fine and up to 6 months in jail. The Americans with Disabilities Act, you've heard of that. It requires all places that are open to the public to give access to service dogs and their owners. And the ADA permits those locations to ask only 2 questions of the owners. One, whether the dog is required because of a disability. And the second question is, what tasks does the dog perform? Well, it's actually, did you know this, illegal for them to request documentation for the dog or to ask about the nature of the owner's disability. I get that part, but I don't know why you can't ask to see its, certification. Probably because there are so many now that really aren't the registries or the certifying agencies that they are expected to be. Mm-hmm. But the crux of the issue is the growing use of emotional support dogs, ESDs, which are intended to provide comfort to those who have anxiety and other, sometimes hard to diagnose emotional problems. Some of them may have received special training, although experts say the training for ESDs is nowhere near as rigorous as the training for service dogs, who are trained for years to help the blind, deaf, and those with certain medical conditions. By the way, emotional support dogs are not covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act and can legally be denied access to public places. Yeah, I didn't know that either. So something to beware of if you have faked a dog's papers before. A service animal is trained for literally thousands of hours and many years to be in public places and non-reactive. In fact, you should hardly even know that a service animal is there. And technically, when you say service animal, that means that covers only dogs and miniature horses. And those service animals have, there have actually been documented cases of those legitimate service animals, mostly dogs, being attacked by untrained emotional support dogs. Besides bad behavior, though, another way to tell the difference between a real and highly trained service dog is, and this is according to trainers, owners of real service dogs, they say, do not carry them in shopping carts or purses. And that is not an inflammatory remark. The rule is 4 on the floor. And what that means is all 4 feet on the ground at all times when a dog is performing a task requested by the handler. But more and more Americans are in favor of a national certified program and registry for legitimately trained service dogs. They say this problem will not stop until that happens. I'm Lori Brooks. Get more breaking animal news anytime at animalradio.com.
This has been an Animal Radio News Update. Get more at animalradio.com.
Hi, this is Park Overall. I am just thrilled about Animal Radio. Please, spay and neuter your animals. Please.
Check out Animal Radio highlights. All the good stuff without the blah, blah, blah. Browse on over to animalradio.pet.
This portion of Animal Radio is underwritten by Fear Free. Fear Free takes the pet out of petrified and puts the treat into treatment. To learn more and find a certified fear-free veterinary professional near you, visit fearfreepets.com.
It's Animal Radio, celebrating the connection with our pets. We'll head back to those phones in just a couple of seconds for your calls for Dr. Debbie and Joey Villani. And we are about, I'm going to say a little over an hour away from Eric Burdon of the Animals joining us. And what is he doing? What does it have to do with animals? You'll just have to stick around and wait to find out. But right now, we welcome to the airwaves Steve Dale. And I must admit, we both have radio shows. And when we get together, it must be pretty important what we want to talk about here. And it is, of course, very important. Today, it is the fear-free movement, which we've talked about for many years, the fear-free movement having to do with making veterinary visits easier for your pet so that they like going to the vet. But now there's fear-free happy homes too. So there's ways to make your home a fear-free home too. And I'll tell you a little more about that in just a couple of minutes. Steve, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
So when did you first hear about fear-free?
Well, before it had its name, fear-free, myself and a lot of the veterinary behaviorists, in fact, I would dare say all of the veterinary behaviorists, and a great veterinarian named Sophia Yin, Dr. R.K. Anderson, and many, many other people were practicing what you are talking about, but it did not have the marketing term fear-free. And the brilliant Marty Becker came up to me, Dr. Becker, at one of the veterinary conferences and said, "I have an idea." Just like that.
Did you know at that time that his idea was that he was really onto something?
Yes, because I did instantly get it. In fact, I'm not even sure I let all the words just fall out of his mouth before I interrupted and said, "I get it," because I've been talking about this sort of thing for a very long time. What Dr. Becker, however, did was encompass the sorts of things I'm talking about with even the architecture of exam rooms in veterinary clinics, with the latest research that's out there as to even what colors pets may prefer, the idea of playing classical music in the clinic and all that sort of thing. You know what, though? Fear-free, the concept really begins in homes. So I'm so glad that he began this notion of fear-free, happy homes. If the cat, let's take a cat because that's an easier example. The carrier comes out, and where is your cat?
He's running. He saw you with the carrier. He's out of there.
Yeah. I mean, even if they do build that wall to Mexico, the cat's going to climb over it. The cat's out of here, and by the time, if you can even do it, run all over your house, grab the cat who's screaming all the way there, and stuff that cat into the carrier. There are people that can't physically do that. But even if you can get that done, by the time you get to the veterinary office, there isn't much even the best veterinarian on earth can do to calm that cat down at that point. And in fact, I really do believe that many cats, if not most, many dogs at the veterinary clinic believe they are going to die. That's how bad it is.
Sure.
Now, imagine this. Picture this. Carrier comes out, and the cat just hops in. Picture this. You drive in your car, just like that, to the veterinary clinic, and you park your car legally in their parking lot. You jump out of the car, and the dog is actually dragging you into the clinic. Life can really be that way.
We're with Steve Dale, certified animal behavior consultant and awesome radio show host. You've had pets for decades. How has your personal experience at the vet hospital changed?
I wonder about the decade part. People have begun to call me old. I don't know. Yes, I have. As I say, I kind of cheat because what I do. I'm a behavior consultant, and this has been a passion of mine for a very long time. Cats are under-medicalized in this country, and there are many reasons for that, and I can define exactly what those reasons are. But one of those reasons, in fact, the biggest, most considerable reason, and I get it from a cat caretaker's perspective, is simply getting them there in the first place is so very difficult to do. And I will say the best veterinarian on the planet cannot treat a cat or a dog that's not coming in. I mean, you can't diagnose an animal you're not seeing. I don't care how good you are. So getting them there seemed to be for years of prime importance to me. And I've been teaching these kitten socialization classes for a very long time now. So I have been, I must say, practicing what I preach. And I have videos of our dogs. You know how dogs, I don't know, you tell me, you guys, I mean, is there somewhere in your area that offers maybe the local bank or the local dry cleaner or whatever that offers cookies to the dogs? When the dogs go by that place, they will drag you. They realize, right? And they take you for a walk now, and they drag you into the door. Well, that's how our dogs feel about the veterinary clinic.
We are with certified animal behavior consultant and extremely talented radio host, Steve Dale. And we'll take a quick break. We'll be back.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Hi, this is Bob Barker on Animal Radio, reminding you to help control the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered.
Do you have a home that you don't want anymore? We can buy it from you within 24 hours. Any home, size, or condition. For over 20 years, we've been buying homes for cash and helping homeowners sell their homes immediately, with no listings or strangers walking through your home. Are you moving? Did you lose your job? Going through a divorce? Whatever the reason, if you're in a bind and you know that you need to sell your house fast, call the expert team at I Need to Sell My House Fast. We'll make you a serious cash offer to buy your home in 24 hours and let you walk away from it. No listing, no waiting. Sell any home, any size, any condition, now. Call the expert team at I Need to Sell My House Fast. Make this free call now.
800-478-6084. 800-478-6084. 800-478-6084. That's 800-478-6084.
You're listening to Animal Radio. If you missed any part of today's show, visit us at animalradio.com or download the Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Joining us is certified animal behavior consultant and host of his own pet show, Steve Dale, joining us. So let's go back to the cats for just a second here. What is a good way so that they don't freak out with the carrier every time I pull it out? What is a way to desensitize them?
And counter conditions. So the good news is that you can take what I'm about to say is way easier with a kitten.
Okay.
And I will describe a super secret magic solution that is available for kittens in some places in a moment. But in addition to that, it works with 5-year-old and even 15-year-old cats. What you do is but take some patience. You take out the carrier, you leave out the carrier as if it is a piece of furniture. And the cat will probably take a wide berth walking around it, like, oh my God, what's this doing here? But eventually get adjusted to the fact that the carrier is just there, like the sofa is just there. Over time, begin to drop some treats randomly into the carrier, so the carrier becomes a treat dispenser. So now the cat is periodically investigating, I wonder if there's going to be something really good inside this carrier. Then what you begin to do is feed the cat just outside the carrier, then feed the cat inside the carrier. When the cat ultimately is comfortable with being fed inside the carrier, then what you do is you actually zip it closed, put the cat inside, zip it closed, and walk all the way into the next room, let the cat out of the carrier, feed the cat. So good things happen after the cat has been in the carrier. Fast forward the clock a little bit. You've given the cat a tour of your house. We're going upstairs. We're going downstairs. We're going to this room and that room. Now you get fed. The cat's not complaining. The cat voluntarily goes into the carrier because the cat knows, I'm only going to get fed after this. That's all. These crazy people are walking around with me inside the carrier. I don't know why, but I get a meal afterwards. Then you take the cat down to the car. Same thing. It's slow. You just start the car and go nowhere, go back in the house. Cat gets fed after being in the carrier in the car. Eventually, you drive down the driveway. Then you drive down the block. Then you drive around the block. And then you go to the veterinary clinic, but nothing happens there except the cat gets a treat or 2 or 3. You go back home and the cat gets fed. You kind of get the idea, I suspect. It does take some doing. Is it worth it? Totally, I think. In addition to that, with a kitten, here's the secret thing I was going to tell you. With a kitten, if you could find somewhere in your market that does kitten socialization classes, or take it upon yourself, if you happen to get a cat as a kitten, and I know many people, wonderful people, amazing people, rescue cats that are 8 years old, which is totally a great thing. But if you happen to have a kitten between the weeks of 8 and 15 weeks of age, then it's really easy. They don't care. Put the cat into the carrier, go to the vet clinic, give your kitten some treats. Do it again and again, and the kitten will be absolutely fine with that. Or enroll in a kitten socialization class. If you keep it up throughout the kitten's life, and now the kitten's an adult cat, now you've got it made. And there are some tools that we can use to do all this. I want to say quickly that my fault, neglected to mention. So 5 years ago or 10 years ago, we didn't have all of these tools. One is a feel away, for example. That is a knockoff of a copy of a pheromone. And when cats rub their cheek pads against a table leg or against your leg, what they're doing is they're depositing a pheromone. And that pheromone, translated from cat language, means, ooh, I'm comfortable and happy to be here. And this is a copy of that pheromone. You spray the feel away into, or you could purchase feel away wipes. They're kind of like hand wipes, except they have pheromone on them. And you use the feel away wipes. Either which way, you spray the feel away, use the wipe, and about 15 minutes before the cat goes into the carrier for all these dress rehearsals, and you've got a less anxious cat. And there are other things we can do as well. Tools we have, nutraceuticals, that nutritional supplements that we didn't have some number of years ago.
And some of the great resources over at fearfreepets.com. We'll put links to everything you've heard on today's show over at animalradio.pet.
Why do you think it's so imperative that pet owners seek out a fear-free veterinarian?
Oh, my goodness. There are so many reasons for that. I mean, the primary reason is that they don't need to feel terrified or, as I said earlier, like they are going to die. I've met in my career, which, as you point out, has been for decades now, I've met perhaps thousands of veterinarians and thousands of veterinary nurses. I've never met one, not one, that hasn't gone into the business to help, in this case, companion animals. But when these pets are terrified, their hearts break. The hearts break of the people that are bringing them in, the caretakers of their family members with 4 legs. Their hearts break, and they become stressed, which increases the animal's stress even more. And this vicious cycle doesn't even have to begin. We can do better than that. And doing better than that isn't only on the veterinary profession, it's on all of us as well.
If you do one thing today, if you're surfing one particular website, I encourage you to go to fearfreepets.com. Fearfreepets.com to learn a little more how you can make your home a fear-free, happy home and how you can find a fear-free certified vet. Of course, links to everything you've heard on today's show over at animalradio.pet. Steve, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You guys are wild. Thank you so much.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
We're going to head back to the phones for your calls next.
This portion of Animal Radio was underwritten by Fear Free. The veterinarian isn't typically thought of as your pet's favorite place to go. With Fear Free, that all changes. To learn more and find a certified fear-free veterinary professional near you, visit fearfreepets.com.
How would you like to save money on nearly all your prescription drugs? We've set up a special toll-free number for the RX Outreach Program. They're a nonprofit company whose mission it is to make prescription drugs more affordable to the masses. They don't take insurance, and in many cases, your prescriptions are even cheaper than your co-pays. They carry thousands of different prescription drugs, so whatever you're taking, there's a good chance they have it. No coupons are required, and this is not a discount card. It is pure savings on your prescription drugs. They specialize in generic meds for any chronic health needs you have. Call with your prescription and find out for free how little you can pay for your prescription drugs. Remember, we don't take insurance, so call right now.
800-689-0143. 800-689-0143. 800-689-0143. That's 800-689-0143.
Celebrating the connection with our pets. This is Animal Radio, featuring your dream team, veterinarian Dr. Debbie White and groomer Joey Villani. And here are your hosts, Hal Abrams and Judy Francis.
And if your pet isn't with you, go ahead and grab your pet right now. We can wait. No, seriously, go grab them right now. Bring them around the radio. They love Animal Radio. We have all of ours. We have Molly, the studio stunt dog. We have Ladybug, the studio stunt dog. Roro's in the corner right there, snoring away in Lori's little cubicle.
My newsroom.
Your newsroom. Is that what they call that? And we're missing a kitten today. There's usually a kitten in here.
She's in lockdown, man. She's just too naughty today.
Why? What's happening? What is she doing?
Just cords and everything. And she knocked over a flower arrangement the other day. And she's discovering that, with claws, she can get just about anywhere. So she is definitely crawling up things, leaping. You think she's some kind of acrobatic. And she's all of 2 pounds, barely. 2 pounds wet.
I love them when they're just little kittens. Yes, they just have so much energy, and they're just popping all around. I wish I had that kind of energy. We're just about to go to the phones. This hour, we're going to talk to Eric Burdon of the Animals. And he has some kind of animal interest, thus him being on Animal Radio. We'll find out what that's all about in just a couple of minutes right here on Animal Radio. Let's hit the phones. Well, hi, Lynn. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. How can we help you?
Well, you know what? I just I had talked to my vet, but we have a puppy, an Australian Shepherd, and I just wondered what you recommend age-wise to get him neutered.
Okay.
I was told like 5 to 6 months, but I wondered if there's things that, should his testicles have dropped by then? He still doesn't lift his leg peeing. He's more like a squat still.
Okay. In general, I'd say that my veterinary recommendation is about 6 months for the castration surgery. That's before we start to see the bad behaviors, marking around the house, a little bit pushy dominance or aggressive behaviors. In our community, we have one of those laws that says that you have to neuter your dog and cat by 4 months of age. And I don't dispute the law, but I would say my preference is 6 months. And for some things like, testicles, yes, they ought to be dropped by 6 months. But actually, those little suckers should be falling on those puppy visits. So usually on the 3 month, the 4 month visits, if those testicles aren't there, then I maybe get a little concerned. But by 6 months, they should be in their normal position. If they're not, that might be a condition called cryptorchidism, where the testicle doesn't drop normally. Not that we would wait necessarily longer, just means we have a little abnormality to deal with. But as far as neutering-wise, you said he's 5 months right now?
He's 6 months.
Oh, he's 6 months. So, yeah, I think he's old enough to sign up. And if he's not lifting his leg, I don't know that waiting longer may necessarily help him. It's not necessarily a hormone-driven behavior. A lot of times it's learned from other dogs around him. So might help to take him to the dog park and let him watch some of the big boys, and he might pick up that behavior. Otherwise, it might just be a little bit more time, and he'll find it.
Sometimes I sit down too.
Too much information.
So what you said earlier, it is better to do it before he shows signs of aggressive behavior. So
absolutely, yeah. And I found some people that actually wait because they're waiting to see those signs. And actually, behaviorally, we can avoid so many more problems if we don't allow that to actually happen in the first place. So yeah, I would endorse the old snip snip for your friend.
Okay.
Thanks, Lynn.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
Line 4 and Brian. Hi, Brian. How are you?
Hey, doing well.
How can we help you today?
Well, I have a black lab mix that I got from the shelter, and she is a wonderful. She's about 3 years old now, and very well. Went to obedience training with her and learned how to. Sometimes you got to train the people that train the dog.
Oh, yeah.
So I learned all the steps to, and she's wonderful. Can teach her to do the paper, sit, stay. She has this odd behavior. Maybe this is more common than I think, but she likes to, if there's other dogs, like we go to a friend's house and take the dog with us, and in the backyard, if they she finds feces from the other dogs, she wants to rub her head in it.
Ooh, lovely.
And then come running back and show us how proud she is. She doesn't eat it or, anything. It's almost like she wants to say, hey, doesn't do it in her own yard. Of course, we clean everything up as quick as we can, but she never does it with her own.
Okay.
And I guess two questions. Is that unusual? And second, how can I help stop the behavior?
Yes, it actually is not all that unusual. I'd say more dogs tend to actually ingest feces, but there are a good amount of them that will roll in the fecal matter, and they do. They come back so proud and happy about it. And it's interesting because there's a lot of behaviorists out there. We really don't know why dogs do this. There's a lot of theories out there, and some of the theories are that they're either masking their scent or they're picking up the scent of where they've been, and they're kind of using that to tell the other pack members where they've been. But we really don't know why. But they enjoy it, they love it. So it is kind of a self-rewarding behavior. So gross, definitely. I don't think anyone would argue with that. The hard thing is because it is a self-rewarding behavior. You have to actually prevent it from beginning in the first place, or you've already lost that ability to train her out of that. So that means the challenge is we have to, when she's faced in these situations, we have to do a couple things. One is to try to control her movements. So either keep her physically away from the areas where the fecal matter are, or we keep her on a head collar, like a gentle lead harness. And that way, when she kind of gets near the material, you can direct her another way. But we also want to remember it's not supposed to be about disciplining or correcting her when she does this, because that actually is, in my eyes, I always kind of compare that to the small toddler or the small child that does something wrong and gets yelled at and is like, ooh, I got attention. Negative attention is still attention. So they're still rewarding the behavior. So we ignore it. We don't say, no, don't do that. You actually look for something else we can motivate her with at that time. And the best thing is if you have a combination of the head collar and something else. So I will use squeaky toys. I'll use toys, treats, frisbees, whatever she really digs. Other than the fecal matter, use that as the alternate toy or behavior. So it is hard, especially if you're over at a friend's house and they're kind of doing doggy fun and playing and rolling in that. But it means just kind of taking control of the situation and not allowing her to do that and give her that outlet.
Just follow her when I bring her and kind of control her as she doesn't do it all the time, which is also difficult too, because
if it's an intermittent behavior.
Right, it's intermittent, which is the hardest behavior to try to change, I think.
Yeah. Now, and when we're keeping her out of the access, it's not ideal to say, she's running around the yard, she starts to roll in it, and then you try to get her away at that point. We really want to maintain physical control, so we want to have her on a leash or a harness. Okay. And you can actually even go through little practice sessions with this. Go to a neighbor, your friend's house, and have her on that, and start doing a little semi-training away from that, and that way you can hopefully let her enjoy some of that freedom and that dog play, which is just part of being a dog.
Hey, don't knock it till you've tried it, okay?
Hey.
Well, thank you,
It's
guys.
doggy
I
perfume.
I appreciate all your help.
Thanks for listening. Hey, don't forget you can get your fix of Animal Radio anytime you want with the Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android. Download it now. It's made possible by Fear Free Pets, taking the pet out of petrified. Visit them at fearfreehappyhomes.com.
Hi, it's Alan Cable with today's dog tip. So you've done your homework, you're ready to make an incredible commitment and get yourself a puppy. You know the responsibility you're taking on, and you've thought long and hard about what kind of puppy you want and how best to pick him or her out. Or did you? When I met my lady, my last dog was a well-behaved, well-socialized grown adult. He passed and she wanted a puppy. I tried to prepare her for the storm that was coming. She said she understood, and so a very lucky stroke. My neighbors got together, a lab and a shepherd, and they had puppies. Now this was great because it enabled me to do some incredible preparation and homework. Firstly, I could observe the puppies as often as I wanted, and when they got older, I could take a couple at a time and visit my backyard. So let's talk about picking out puppies. You know, when you go to the supermarket, you just don't pick up any cucumber and stick it in your cart. No, it's got to be a beautiful green cucumber, crisp and ripe. Many people just pick out puppies or dogs just based on how they look. But shouldn't you ask yourself what personality traits you'd most like to see in a puppy, and whether or not you want a smart dog? The best way to gauge a puppy's intelligence is to observe him. Puppies have very short attention spans. They can't focus very long on anything. Kind of like guys when you're talking about your relationship. They're on to the next thing before you can snap your fingers. So if you observe a puppy that can focus for 10, 15 seconds on an object or anything, that's a great sign of intelligence. Also, watch how the puppy interacts with the other puppies. Does he leave the pack occasionally, go off on his own to explore? Or does he always cling tightly to the group? When he plays, is he dominant or is he submissive? And watch how his mother corrects him when she doesn't like the behavior. Usually grabbing him by the neck with her teeth or pushing him down to the ground. That's another important thing to observe, how a mother corrects bad behavior in her pups. You're going to be doing a lot of correcting when you bring your puppy home. Okay, so to be prepared for your first night, your dog is going to wail and whine all night long. My wife wanted me to return him the next day. He's away from his mother and his litter mates for the first time. He's scared. He's in a strange environment, and he's calling out to them, and more than likely, he'll do it for a week or two. Do yourself a favor and get a crate, and we'll be talking about crate and potty training next time.
This is
Animal Radio, baby.
Dogs or cats, horse or emu, animals are people too.
You've heard the expression, cat got your tongue? Well, a cat in Dobson, North Carolina just might have it. Owner Bill Whittington noticed his little black cat had 5 toes on each foot, so he named him Five Toes. It wasn't until months later he thought he saw something strange when Five Toes was flicking his tongue around. Not only did Five Toes have 5 toes, he had 2 tongues. After letting out a yell, he started showing his cat with all the extra parts to his friends, who were equally amazed. Whittington and Five Toes have been guests on local TV and even contacted by Ripley's Believe It or Not, who will include Five Toes in their 2006 edition. I'm Britt Savage for Animal Radio. Animals are people too. Animal Radio.
Do you have a home that you don't want anymore? We can buy it from you within 24 hours. Any home, size, or condition. For over 20 years, we've been buying homes for cash and helping homeowners sell their homes immediately with no listings or strangers walking through your home. Are you moving? Did you lose your job? Going through a divorce? Whatever the reason, if you're in a bind and you know that you need to sell your house fast, call the expert team at I Need to Sell My House Fast. We'll make you a serious cash offer to buy your home in 24 hours and let you walk away from it. No listing, no waiting. Sell any home, any size, any condition, now. Call the expert team at I Need to Sell My House Fast. Make this free call now.
800-478-6084. 800-478-6084. 800-478-6084. That's 800-478-6084.
Hello, this is Loretta Swit, and I'm on Animal Radio. And please don't forget to spay and neuter.
You're listening to Animal Radio. If you missed any part of today's show, visit us at animalradio.com or download the Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
It's Animal Radio. We all have a brush with fame sooner or later. I've actually had two now that I think about it. I had a brush with Don McLean from American Pie fame, sat next to him on an airplane. And Eric Burdon of the Animals. I gave him a lit cigarette already after a show.
Wow.
He just he came off stage and he looked at me and said, "Can I have that cigarette?" or something like that. And I gave him my cigarette. And that was my brush with Eric Burdon until now.
Wow.
In just a few minutes, I know, really big deal. Well, what was your brush with fame?
I'm trying to think. Other than the people that I've met through working with Animal Radio, I mean, we've met some. We had Jose Canseco's the one year.
I remember that. I had to reel you in on that one.
Well, I was having a good old time flirting. It was so much fun. But there are others. I'm trying to think. But he's just one jumps out.
Yeah, for some reason. I remember that. You were just drooling all over. Let's see. And you're working on news, Lori. Have you ever had a brush with fame?
I think my most exciting one was leaving a radio station party at the Queen Mary. And as I was leaving, because we had to get up and go on the air the next day, like at 3 o'clock, I saw Lorenzo Lamas.
Oh, Lorenzo Lamas, yes.
And that was the time of, was that Falcon Crest? Was he in Falcon Crest?
He was on one of those.
It was before his, wife-beating days or whatever he did. But, he was still so cute. That was probably...
your Russia thing. Yeah, okay. Well, good day, David. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you.
Where are you?
I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Little Rock, Arkansas. How can we help you today, David?
Okay, my question is this. I have a 10-and-a-half-year-old Yorkie Poo, and he rides in the truck with me. He's been doing it for about 10 years now. I'm a trucker. And I usually would able to give him just about anything, and it wouldn't bother him. But in the last 6 months or so, he gets the runs at the drop of a hat. And even I started mixing his food with some canned food to kind of make it a little bit more palatable for him. And that was okay, but even now that bothers him. What's going on with my dog?
Okay, so his appetite is sound. That's good?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then I would not add in canned food because that can ruin the whole process of what you're trying to do. If you're having loose stools with your pet and you add in canned food, that actually can have a tendency for many pets to loosen up the stool. There's a lot more moisture content in that, and it's kind of like, be like eating a lot of pumpkin pie if you have diarrhea. It's not going to help things in any way there. So I would really be looking more at our diet structure as far as what we are feeding, and there are some diets will go to a higher fiber content if we want to firm up the stool some. Now, the other thing I'm going to say is I would certainly make sure we have the stool and your pet checked at the veterinarian because, we could have something like worms. We can have other issues going on. There's problems in digestion with the pancreas that can cause a chronic problem with loose stools. I'd say the number one problem in most cases is we choose a diet that doesn't agree with our pet's bowels. And the number one thing I look at when I pick a food, a lot of people say, "What's the best food out there, Doc?" It's going to be the best one that agrees with your pet. That's always one of the first things. So do they like it? And does it produce nice, solid poops that are consistent? So that might be something we look at. Is the current food you're going with, maybe nothing bad against the company, but it may not be the trick for your pet. And to change that, we would find another and kind of gradually introduce that new diet over a period of about a week to 2 weeks. See what the poops go like. And then we can make a decision. Is it better, worse, no different? But I would certainly, before we start on the strategy of trying different foods and moving around, like I said, I'd make sure your baby's checked out A-OK by the vet and bring a nice bag of poop for the vet. It really makes our day when you guys do that.
You like that stuff. It's weird.
You're listening to Animal Radio. Call the Dream Team now with the free Animal Radio app for iPhone and Android.
Hi, everybody. This is Frankie Avalon, and I love Animal Radio. Keep listening.
Vinny Penn here, coming at you on Animal Radio, your resident party animal. The topic du jour, or dare I get cheeky and say a pet peeve of mine, When that friend of yours that you haven't seen in years, a girlfriend of mine, came up to me recently and said, do you want to see a pic? I showed her pictures of my kids, and she said, do you want to see a picture of my kids? And she pulls out a photograph of 2 dogs. I don't know that there's anything more frustrating than this. I get the sentiment of the couple who's decided against having children, but to get a dog together and regard that as, that's our child, and to regard it seriously, that's what's kind of appalling, are the people who do it. If you do it tongue-in-cheek, that's one thing, but to show a photograph of 2 Rottweilers in enormous hand-knit sweaters and say, these are our kids, Chip and Eagle. No, they're not your kids. I'm all for treating the pet like a member of the family. I had 2 dogs in my lifetime, and they absolutely were members of our family. They were man's best friend. I am down with all of that. But they are not your children. As a father, I take offense to it. I have 2 kids of my own, and it is a totally different situation. I feel ridiculous even trying to lay out why it's so silly. Now, granted, I dated a few girls in the day where I could have had children with them, and they would have been dogs. I mean, I get all of that. But to do that, to show that photo and say, dead serious, these are our children. We love them like you love your own children. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because my kids would never have that tartar build up on their teeth. Vinnie Penn, Party Animal, Animal Radio.
This is
Animal Radio.
How would you like to save money on nearly all your prescription drugs? We've set up a special toll-free number for the RX Outreach Program. They're a nonprofit company whose mission it is to make prescription drugs more affordable to the masses. They don't take insurance, and in many cases, your prescriptions are even cheaper than your co-pays. They carry thousands of different prescription drugs, so whatever you're taking, there's a good chance they have it. No coupons are required, and this is not a discount card. It is pure savings on your prescription drugs. They specialize in generic meds for any chronic health needs you have. Call with your prescription and find out for free how little you can pay for your prescription drugs. Remember, we don't take insurance, so call right now.
800-689-0143. 800-689-0143. 800-689-0143. That's 800-689-0143.
This is an Animal Radio News Update.
I'm Lori Brooks. The journal Veterinary Record has introduced a new topic that has a lot of people riled up after their series of articles about how humans treat reptiles as pets. Well, as reptiles and amphibians are becoming increasingly popular pets these days, animal experts are calling for some renewed focus to ensure that we, the humans, are not hurting our slithery, scaly friends. And the issue is a little more complicated than you might think at first. While lizards and geckos, let's say, can be easier to care for than a dog or cat, reptiles can still suffer from improper care and nutrition. And on top of that, increasing popularity means spikes in illegal trade too, possibly placing endangered exotic species at risk. Now, experts say that compared to dogs, which achieve natural longevity in the domestic environment, about 75% of reptiles die during their first year in a home as a pet.
Ooh.
They stress, that we need to make sure reptiles and amphibians get not just appropriate housing, but also some socialization, since some are actually more social than we've been led to think in the past. So you're probably wondering what's the difference between amphibians and reptiles. I bet Dr. Debbie knows.
Oh, of course, you better know.
I should. Well, I had to look it up. So amphibians, frogs, toads, salamanders, primarily live in and around water. Reptiles are your snakes, lizards, alligators, turtles, and reptiles lay hard-shelled eggs, and their young are pretty much just smaller versions of what they are going to be as an adult.
So what's
is
an alligator? That would be an amphibian?
No, that's a reptile.
But I'm so confused. They hang out in the water.
Right, but they're not exclusively live in the water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it also has something to do with their skin, right? That
yeah, there's more to it than just where they live. It's definitely how, you know, their scale, their conformation, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I have to chime in because, you know, this is a really big thing. Reptiles are the misunderstood pet. A lot of people get them as pets, don't know what they're doing. So it's a good reason to investigate, research, and then even take that little critter to the veterinarian once you get it to make sure you're doing everything right and consult with the veterinarian.
Oh, they're so temperamental. I had a gecko, and you have to keep it the exact temperature, and if it veers from
humidity,
that
UV light,
well, it's
all
like
of
Joey
that
was saying earlier that a lot of us or a lot of people will get a reptile or a bird, as Joey was talking about, and think that you can just like leave them in a cage and that's fine. But birds are really social, and apparently a lot of reptiles and amphibians are as well. There's a group that you guys are going to be hearing more about in the future, I bet. It is called the Green Pet Burial Society. As, you know, our love of pets continues to grow. The group advocates for what they call whole family cemeteries, places where a whole family could be buried. People and pets, yeah. The burial of pet remains in cemeteries designated for humans is illegal in many states, but last year, you know, we're making strides. New York did legalize the burial of animal remains in human cemeteries as long as both the human and the animal were interred at the same time. Means that you can't go out and kill an animal just to put it into a coffin with a human. Still, the Green Pet Burial Society says there are many, many stories out there of people sneaking the cremains of a beloved pet into the casket of somebody who has passed. So they have gone to the trouble of creating a directory of cemeteries where people can be buried with their pets.
Oh, how cool is that?
Yeah. Isn't that cool? And did you guys hear about this story? A cat named Stinker. He's in Southern California, or is back with his family more than a year after he disappeared while a film crew was making a movie using his family's home. The family looked everywhere for Stinker, who they had found as a kitten abandoned on the side of the 210 freeway. So when they visited their local shelter, you know, in search of Stinker, they were told of a cat fitting Stinker's description had recently been hit by a car near their home. So it kind of looked like, you know, all the pieces fit together. So they assumed it was Stinker and stopped their search. Now, fast forward a year later, the family moves to Connecticut. Thinking that they might finally be ready to add another new pet to their life, they started looking at the shelters in Connecticut. But they didn't find what they were searching for, so the husband checked photos of their old California shelter for animals that were there, and he found a cat that looked just like Stinker. So he calls the next door neighbor and asks the neighbor to go to the shelter. So the neighbor goes to the shelter, and then the former dad and Stinker are in the shelter FaceTiming each other through the neighbor. So the next day, this guy flies out to Los Angeles from Connecticut to see for himself. And yes, a very happy ending for a long story that could have been solved much faster and more easily had Stinker had a microchip, which he does now.
I bet he does, yeah.
But a happy ending.
We just had a kitty brought into our office that was missing for 6 years. And was found, had a microchip and was reunited. And fortunately, she was found because she has bladder stones and we had to do surgery. And she's on the mend from that. But, you know, her family was so thankful to get her back 6 years later.
How did they react after 6 years? I mean, you pretty much write off an animal after that.
They were happy regardless that they got their kitty back.
You got to love those stories. I mean, it's just microchip, friends, microchip.
Oh, gosh,
I'm Lori Brooks. Get more breaking animal news anytime at animalradio.com.
This has been an Animal Radio News Update. Get more at animalradio.com.
Everybody has their little brush with fame story, and it was in maybe the early 80s. I had my brush with fame. It was Eric Burdon of the Animals. I was backstage at the Bumbershoot Festival in Seattle.
Really?
And he was performing, and he got off stage, and he asked me for a cigarette. That's the story.
Your claim to fame.
That's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
Did you have one?
I actually did. I actually did give him one. And, he's joining us now. Hi, Eric, how are you doing?
I'm good. I never smoke cigarettes. Okay. I dig your
Okay, you just blew the whole thing.
I heard somewhere that you played trombone. That was your first instrument?
Yeah, because it sounds like an elephant.
Because it sounds like an elephant.
Wow.
Were you a good trombone player?
No, I didn't get that far. I kidded myself that I could play New Orleans style music, which is pretty accessible for the beginner. But not really. Not when I heard people like Lawrence Brown, who was the main trombone player with the Count Basie band, and I have a trombone player in my band currently. And when we met, he said, why do you want me? And I said, because I understand that you are a Lawrence Brown fan. He said, that's right. And I said, okay, you're hired. Let's do it.
Just like that. So you knew that you weren't a good trombone player. You knew that, or did someone say to you, hey, Eric, you got to give up the trombone?
Well, I'm an asthmatic, and that's pretty, asking too much.
Yeah,
for
that's
my
tough.
That comes to be a singer and a trombone player.
Did I hear you correctly? You have asthma?
Yeah.
And you sing like you certainly have lots of fresh air.
That's proof of the magic of music.
So now you got involved in this thing called the Elephant Project. What is that?
Well, we're elephant lovers. And our elephants are probably my favorite animal. I've had close and personal relationships with the gentle giant at the park in London Zoo many years ago. And I was in shock when I was on tour in America to see headlines in the newspapers saying male elephant jealous of another male elephant is caused murder of his rival. And when I got back to London Zoo, I asked the elephant man there, the keeper at the zoo, is it true that about this affair between two rival male elephants, and one got headbutted and pushed into the ditch that keeps the elephants separate from the public. There's no fence. It's just a ditch. It's just a canal. And this one elephant pushed another elephant into the canal. He landed upside down, and unfortunately they couldn't rescue him. All the blood went to his brain, and he died.
Wow.
And as the elephant trainer was telling me this, I was convinced that the elephant, we point the finger at in the crime here, was listening to every word and understood what was being said. It was amazing. Elephants are highly intelligent, I found out, and they have long-lasting memories. So it's not a stretch that maybe the elephant connected with me or what I was saying, or could smell me and the way I smelled, if that's what they're saying. I mean, but they're such gentle giants. And I dreamt years ago that there would be an armed group of soldiers would be raised in Africa to protect the elephants from the slaughter that's going on from people who are hunting them for ivory.
We are with singer-songwriter Eric Burdon. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back.
Do you have a home that you don't want anymore? We can buy it from you within 24 hours. Any home, size, or condition. For over 20 years, we've been buying homes for cash and helping homeowners sell their homes immediately with no listings or strangers walking through your home. Are you moving? Did you lose your job? Going through a divorce? Whatever the reason, if you're in a bind and you know that you need to sell your house fast, call the expert team at I Need to Sell My House Fast. We'll make you a serious cash offer to buy your home in 24 hours and let you walk away from it. No listing, no waiting. Sell any home, any size, any condition, now. Call the expert team at I Need to Sell My House Fast. Make this free call now.
800-478-6084. 800-478-6084. 800-478-6084. That's 800-478-6084.
All right now, baby, it's all
Hi, this is Paul Rogers.
And Cynthia Rogers.
On Animal Radio.
Just know that it's going to be all right, meow.
It's Animal Radio, celebrating the connection with our pets. We are with singer, songwriter, and elephant lover Eric Burdon. Can you tell listeners what timber elephants are?
I've only seen film of them, and they are used like mechanical, massive mechanical earth-moving equipment, except they pick up timber, which is really heavy stuff, and it's one of the heaviest woods in the world, teak. And they put it they wrap their trunk around it, and they wedge it in between their horns, and they carry it around, probably with a lot more care than a mechanical beast made by John Deere would. It's amazing. But I learned when I was in Germany, I spent time in the zoo, living in the zoo in Berlin. And
You lived in the Berlin Zoo?
Yes, I did.
That's amazing. How cool.
It is.
I bet that was awesome.
Yeah, I had a great time there. I learned a lot. I hated zoos before I went in there. I thought they were prisons for animals. But indeed, they have to be kept separate from the general populace. But I found out that the Berlin Zoo was an animal palace. And they ate better than I did. The big cats had fresh meat brought in like 3 times a week, and I was allowed to go in the butcher shop and see the system, and I could walk around the zoo in the middle of the night when there was nobody else there.
Wow.
And I would be up and awake after shows, after working on a movie. That's what I was doing there in Berlin. And I would stay up till like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and watch the animals awaken to face the day and the human guests that were coming to, hang around their favorite species and watching the lions coming out. And, they're really family creatures, really family-oriented people, animals. Yeah. Trump would stop calling his enemy animals. It's a terrible name to be stuck with.
We are with singer-songwriter Eric Burdon, who has lent his name to an organization called the Elephant Project. I think it's absolutely incredible what you're doing. You know, you talk about it as lending your name like it's no big deal, but it's a huge deal, and I salute you for this. And just to find out that you spent time living in a zoo, that's a story.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Write a book on that, Eric.
It was a magical town. It was a magical period in Berlin, because I don't know if you know enough about Berlin, but the zoo is the heart of Berlin. The zoo is right in the heart of the city. All of the public transportations and everything, you look up and it says zoo, the center, the zoo. And it was amazing that I ended up in the zoo. There was a place for me there that normally zoology students have space there to live there, and when they're studying the animals, and that's how I got a place to sleep there. It was incredible.
Do zoos in different countries treat their animals differently? Like in Berlin, do they treat their animals differently than they do in zoos here?
Well, let me tell you that a couple of girlfriends of mine, the one being the wife of the boss of the zoo, we took a baby gorilla, to breakfast with us in a restaurant across the street from the zoo. And the girlfriend that I had at the time had long blonde hair. And as we were eating breakfast, the baby gorilla got on the back of her chair and spent all the time that we were in the restaurant combing my girlfriend's hair with her fingers, gently combing her hair.
Wow.
That was our breakfast.
Like she was grooming her.
Surreal.
Yeah, it is. Wow. Eric, what do you got on the musical horizon? What are you working on now?
Well, I'm writing a book at the moment, but incorporated in the book are lyrics, which will eventually become songs when I get time to go into the studio and pass my ideas along to my musician friends. So as the book goes on, there are songs to go with whatever chapter I'm writing. And I see most things anyway in the form of songs. I guess rap is to blame for that. You know, I'm not a rap fan, but I understand that it's the music of today, and you know, and the guys who are rappers they're just talking in their language about what's happening in their world.
They're just telling stories.
It's like what you did in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm doing now.
And you continue to do. Yes.
Yeah, right.
We'll look for the book, and of course, it's not your first. There was Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. If you haven't read it yet, it's a great read. Pick it up now. And Eric, I thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you, and on behalf of my friends, may I say...
I want to thank Steve Dale as well as Alan Cook and Eric Burdon for coming on today. If you missed any part of the show, you can head on over to animalradio.pet and listen or download the Animal Radio app for iPhone, Android, and BlackBerry to get your fix anytime you want, middle of the night, middle of the day, whenever. We're here for you. And we'll see you next week for more Animal Radio right here on this fine station.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Come on, Ro. We're going on a walk.
This is Animal Radio Network.